Welcome to my YouTube channel. Now, the shutdown, I believe it's the 8th day. And the Democratic shutdown, the Chuck Schumer shutdown, and the Democrats are literally exposing themselves for who they really are. Now, the party of slavery, the party of Jim Crow, the party of mass incarceration is exposing itself, and it's having its pawns, aka its Democratic slaves, get out in front of a situation that's coming to an end. It is a cliff at the end of this journey here. The party of slavery has tapped out. Back in the day in the Civil War times, and they rebranded themselves and created the KKK. Now they rebranded themselves and they're the opposition, the resistance party, the party that's going against the federal government. Think about that. Doesn't that remind you of the Dixiecratic Democratic South? The party that is going against the federal government, and it's a blame game. And I see my light-skinned brothers out there having to sell their souls because Hakeem Jeffries, his credibility is shot right now because Hakeem Jeffries is nothing but a bald-faced liar. Okay, and I'm going to prove that to you today. And we're gonna just look at the receipts and really have a conversation, because we have to understand what's really going on. And when I use the term massa, okay, I gotta see people they like to call polished brothers Uncle Toms. I take that with a badge of honor. Uncle Tom was a cold cat. But when you talk about the coons and the sellouts, I'm going to expose them Democrats today. And I watch my dear light-skinned brother, and I say my dear light-skinned brother because light-skinned brothers are compromised, okay? Because it's a lot of that blood that's in them that they can't deliver themselves from. So they know how to pick them. Because if you pick a real brother, he gonna get to that level and he gonna sit back and say, what's happening? He's gonna basically challenge you because his moral turpitude is much greater than massa. And when I say massa today, I'm basically saying massa is the funders of the Democratic Party. I'm going to say this again. When I use the term massa, massa is the funders of the Democratic Party. So you got Brandon Johnson, you got Gavin Newsom, you got Governor P.J. Fitzger, Governor of Illinois. You got Hakeem Jeffries, and now they compromised Chuck Schumer. Now Chuck Schumer is out there, he's doing what he got to do because he don't want to lose his position to AOC. Because when they voted for the CR the last time, and I'm going to give you the receipts today. When they voted for the CR last time, a clear resolution, meaning keep the government open to keep Americans getting paid. Chuck Schumer was on the on major platforms as an individual that the Democratic Party despised because they do not want to work with the Republic, to the Republic which stands one nation under God. How y'all doing this morning? Already in the comments. The comments telling me to say hi, so I'm saying hi because they want to make sure I'm not some bot. I'm a human being. I am a human being. And somebody put in the comments already, I hope the Democrats keep fighting against the administration. Well, if the Democrats keep fighting against the administration, that means the pawns on the chessboards, which means the American people are going to suffer. You got individuals right now working for free because the Democratic Party is fighting against the administration. And contrary to popular belief, this administration is in control. So let's keep that. Let's keep that in mind. So now that we realize that, history repeats itself. Like I said, I'm a history buff, and, I loved American history. I love my Reconstruction classes and all of that. So basically, pre-Civil War, this Democratic Republic, was working together. The federal government allowed that free labor down south with those Dixiecratic Democratic Southerners. But all of a sudden, they had a change of heart. And when they had that change of heart, they wanted to end slavery, and the Democratic Party wanted to expand slavery. So they went and had a war called the Civil War. And it wasn't until the emancipated Negroes signed up for on the Union side to help defeat the Democratic Dixiecratic South, but the federal government abandoned the South and allowed the Democratic Party to rebrand itself. And what did the Democratic Party do? They created the KKK. Fear and intimidation, burning down people's houses, doing the burning crosses and hiding their faces. Because these were, political, people, the mayor of the town, the sheriff, pillaging through the South, terrorizing the newly freed slaves. And basically the scared newly freed slaves said, you know what? I'm going to sign up and I'm going to be what they call a sharecropper. I'm going to work with masters and I'm going to be a good boy. So now that these good old boys has transcended all the way to 2025, now their descendants is being exposed. Hakeem, you should change your name, boy. Hakeem. A light-skinned, green-eyed brother named Hakeem. You ain't nothing but a high-priced slave. You ain't doing nothing but what master tell you to do. And I say master today. I'm talking about the funders of the Democratic Party. That's what I'm talking about. The evildoers in high places. And my church people, my church folk, my pastors, you guys are in trouble, okay? Because I read the Bible and I've read about King Nebuchadnezzar. And King Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon. And did you know what the Babylonians did to men? And it came to my understanding that the little Hebrew boys were castrated and thrown in a fiery furnace because they didn't want to give it up to massa. And this is the same thing that we're dealing with right now. So you pastors and you preachers, beware. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, repent, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand, because you guys are some sellouts. You guys are some coons and some sambos. And what I say, when I say this, I'm saying this because you are siding with the devil. You are siding with the devil. And I mentioned King Nebuchadnezzar. And he was the king of Babylon. In Babylon, the sins, God destroyed Babylon. And he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Why? Because of the homosexuals. Because of men and men. Because they turned their eyes away from God and just deal with their filthy, dirty pleasures. And we're dealing with a party right now where we have baby boomers on Capitol Hill fighting for the rights of everything but God. Gender equality. I heard one of the, I think his name is Hank. I can't remember his name, but he's a congressman and he's from the South, and he talked like this, and you not with gender equality, and you not, man, come on, man. You guys are going straight to hell. You're going straight to hell. And all I'm doing, my job is to give you a lifeline. Like I said, it's one race, is the human race. And like I said, yeah, I'm a black man. And there's some black matters on the table. But before we can handle our black matters, we got to separate ourselves from this this construct, this duopoly. These scribes and these Pharisees. And if you did not know, scribes and Pharisees kind of remind you Republicans and Democrats. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Jesus went into the house and ate and hung out with some Pharisees because the Pharisees were believers. But, those scribes, those dirty Democrats going straight to hell. No God. Don't believe in God, never thought about a God, and they want to change your son into a daughter. They want to take every letter from the alphabet. They want to go against science and humanity because God made male and female. And what are they trying to make? Trans and cisgender and all of this madness. So what I'm saying is we got to call them out. And like I said, I'm not a Republican. I'm a nonpartisan independent because the last time that I checked, Jesus flipped the table on the scribes and the Pharisees. So I got to ask them, how comfortable will you feel inviting Jesus into your household, knowing that you live in the way you live? At least the Republicans got a belief in God. Because when Jesus was convicted, when Jesus was crucified, he got crucified with two individuals. A scribe and a Pharisee. One of them asked God, with no repentance, with repentance on the cross, but No baptism and none of that. And he asked Jesus, I know who you are. You didn't do anything wrong, but will you see me in heaven? And Jesus assured him, I will see you in heaven. But this other one mocked him. This Democrat mocked him. Said, if you God Almighty, won't you get us down? Mocking him. And the other one checked him. Do you know who you're talking to? So now we got to be in a situation right now in 2025 to loose ourselves from the devil. Because when the preachers came up with that lesser of the two evils, they pretty much sold their souls. There's no such thing as lesser of the two evils. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one, whether it's that one or that one. I can't make a decision between Lucifer or Satan. So now we get an opportunity to deliver ourselves because the Democratic Party is exposing itself for what it really is. The Democrats claim to love Americans, but they will not sit and have a conversation or sign off on a clear resolution, meaning keep the government open, keep these people getting paid until next time. But for whatever reason, they just decided to throw y'all under the bus. They don't care nothing about you. And I know without shadow of a doubt, federal workers, government workers, that's a large majority of their voting bloc. Because I know a lot of brothers and sisters that work for the government, that work, federal and all of that. But just think about it. They're lying. Chuck Schumer signed off on clear resolutions, every single time. And I'm going to share some videos with you today to give you some receipts because don't believe what I tell you. Do your research. Let's fact check and let's do what we need to do. But it is what it is. How y'all doing this morning? But it is what it is. And Art put in the comments, keep sucking up. Keep sucking up to who? I'm sucking up to God. I'm not sucking up to no human, no human being. These are human matters. I believe in God Almighty. And my job is to put a spark in your ear and to motivate and encourage you to separate yourself. Because when we look at the Democratic Party, these ain't nothing but a whole bunch of sellouts, individuals that lost their soul. These are soulless individuals and will do anything their master tell them to do. And when I say master today, I'm saying the Democratic funders. Because who's funding an operation to go against the federal government? Who's funding an operation for these mayors and governors to, go against the sitting president? Listen. It is what it is, and all good things come to an end. So this is the last moments of the Democratic Party. And the only way it was able to survive this time is because of the slaves, the black slaves, yes, voting 100% Democratic, voting for massa, voting for the hand that feeds them. But in this last election, they saw a change. They saw black men separating themselves from his woman. They saw the black man separating himself from the political construct. They saw the black man separating himself and declaring his independence. And I'm sitting here in the state of California where they spending billions of dollars to pass Proposition 50, a special election with just one thing on it, and that's to go backwards and to allow 2 or 3 individuals to go in the back room and to draw the maps up so they can counter and stop Donald Trump. Listen, I'm so tired of human beings telling me to stop another human being. It's not flesh and blood. It's powers and principalities. And all you got to do is follow the money. That's all you got to do. And it is what it is. So now that we're, in a position to free ourselves, let's really, call a spade a spade. And my job today is to basically give you some information and to let you decide who's shutting the government down. Because I got a few videos that I'm going to play and I'm going to let you hear. And it is what it is because the Democrats are being exposed. They don't love you. They want you to be broke, busted, and disgusted. They want you to lose your job. Okay. And let me tell you something. Now, the Democrats continue to accuse people. And when they continue to accuse people, what's the devil's mission? He's known, one of his aliases is the accuser. So anytime they say this and that and don't have facts and don't have solutions or resolutions, they ain't nothing but a bunch of slaves and a bunch of pawns. And massa is giving them orders. Massa is telling them what to do. And this is why you got brother Hakeem Jeffries, my green-eyed, light-skinned brother named Hakeem, that's sitting out there lying through his teeth because he has no soul and he has no belief in God. And yes, I said it. Facts are facts. It is what it is. Because like I said, this is free will right here. I could be doing anything. I could be at the gym. I could be working out. I'm a free Negro, but I choose to do what I'm supposed to do right now, and that's to give you, inform you of what to do, and that's to separate yourselves from this two-party system. They have no solutions. And the premise of A Better Black America TV here on YouTube is we seek solutions and resolutions to create a better world. See, the black race has been on deck for a very long time. And somehow, some way, our leaders just, they just sold their souls. We got baby boomers. We got people, in their 70s and 80s, 80 years old talking about, gender equality and cisgender and all of that. These things didn't even exist. These are man-made things. It's XX and XY, male and female. Period. There's no debate about that. This is why we got to come together and be on the same sheet of music. It is what it is. So I'm going to prove to you today. I'm going to show a couple videos and I'm going to show how hypocritical the Democrats are, because under Joe Biden, 8 times they voted for a clean CR, a clear resolution, meaning keep the government open. Don't change anything. Just vote, keep the government open and move on. But Hakeem Jeffries, the House Negro, clearly he's green-eyed, light-skinned, so Massa is his daddy. Okay. So his daddy tell him to go lie to the slaves, but everybody not slaves. Everybody's not dumb. We're educated over here. And I know all of you that's on right now, you guys are educated. You guys are smart. We challenge each other. It is what it is. But you got brothers like this, like Hakeem Jeffries is going out there just lying to the American people, playing to the lowest of the lowest vibrations. That man, the Republicans got the House and the Senate, but we know that the Senate needs 7 Democrats to be on board. And the last time this happened was in March to keep the government open. And Chuck Schumer basically decided to work with the current administration, and somehow, some way, the far left wing, the demonic wing of the party, has threatened him, and he's so afraid to lose his position or his seat or to be challenged by AOC that now he done fell by the wayside. And now he's out here lying too. They need 7 Democrats to basically vote for a clean CR, a clear resolution to keep the government open. So they can't even find 7 Democrats in the Senate that love the working class. Okay, remember the big beautiful bill, working class bill? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, Social Security enhancements, and all these things. We argued and debated about it. But it went into fruition. And now we're sitting back, having to listen to the lies. If I hear Hakeem Jeffries one more time go on television and lie, it's just showing you who they are and what they are. They are coons, they are Sambos, and they are, more importantly, sell-outs. And this is why, they got to be a part of some divine nine, some Greek, some secret society, because they're only looking out for themselves. They don't care nothing about the American people. Because if any of the Democrats cared about the American people, they could at least find 7 senators on the Democratic side to vote to extend what they have right now, to keep the government open, to keep these people paid. And I'm gonna show a couple videos to prove my point. How y'all doing this morning? Y'all ready to roll this morning? So listen, let me just go ahead and cue up my videos, and we're gonna make this thing happen. So bear with me. Let me go ahead and clear this thing up. All right. So let's get to it. All right. Now this individual right here is James Langford. He's going to basically just give you all the information that you need to know about the shutdown. He came with the receipts. This was on the Senate floor yesterday, and this is the information. This is going to make it make sense. So if you're on the fence and you don't know about the government or whose fault it is and all that, it's clearly the Democrats' shutdown. It's Schumer's shutdown. He's the leader of it is the Democratic minority leader in the Senate. And his entire career, he voted to keep the government open. But for whatever reason, he's not doing it this time because I think Massa just want to see how this thing play out. And when I look at the opposition and the resistance of these individuals that's going against, the federal government, that's going against ICE and all of that, it just reminds me of the Democratic Dixiecratic South that pretty much resisted the federal government, because they wanted to preserve slavery, but the jig is up. And the only reason that they were able to be still relevant today is by using the former slaves, the Negroes, who vote 100% against the party that enslaved them, beat them, hung them on trees. So let's be honest with ourselves. What are we doing? So now in 2025, we get a chance to tell the truth and shame the devil. All right. So I'm going to play some videos. It's Massa. Okay. Massa. When I say Massa, meaning the funders of the Democratic Party. When I say Massa, I mean the funders of the Democratic Party, because all our elected Democratic officials are bought and paid off by some individuals. And if you pay attention to any of the news or anything like that, they call the names out. Okay. They call the names out and they tell you who's paying for these protests. And then you got a lot of pawns out there that go to all these protests and don't get paid, when there's a lot of them that's getting paid six figures. So when you say, when you think of these individuals that's in Portland and that's going against the federal troops, who is that? Who funds their operation? Who do they work for? Let's be totally honest about that. So, I'm not going to delay it anymore. So now, if you really want to know why the government is shut down, it is 100% the Democrats' shutdown, and they are forced to go out there and lie because they have no morals, and lie because they have no soul, and lie because they Massa, the Democratic donors. They gotta say it. If not, they'll get caught up. And I'm gonna just say this, and this is gonna be another video, but it was a judge mansion burned down in Florida because she wouldn't work, with the opposition party. They burned her mansion down. And then you got a lot of these people being unalived and drowning and all of this stuff. I mean, like I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes, common sense sink in, because these people are fraud. Okay, they claim to be one thing and claim to be another. Just like when you say, who's going to be the first gay president, and everybody knows it was already Barack Obama. Okay, because he did more for the LGBTQ Rainbow Coalition than he did for supposedly his own people. But his mother is white. So think about it. Let's have this conversation. But I'm going to go ahead and show you why the shutdown is the Democratic shutdown, and why we must abandon the party, and why we must not give it a lifeline, why we got to just keep it pushing, and why we got to vote no on Prop 50. Because Prop 50, basically, Gavin Newsom is spending our reparations money. They want to do studies, and, the California Assembly passed the reparations bill, but Gavin Newsom told them, don't put that bill on my desk, I'll veto it. And what did the slaves do? Just turned around and tucked their tails. But now, these scribes and these Pharisees are going to get exposed. So right now, the Democrats, they're the defendant. They on the defense. The Republicans are the prosecutor, and the nonpartisan independents, aka black men and the working class of America, we're the judge in this political courtroom. So we're going to watch this party get sentenced to life. All right. Beyond further ado, let's go ahead and just hear why it's the Democrats' shutdown. Let's go. And this is James Langford. He's going to basically read out a list of Democrats basically trying to impasse, saying that a shutdown is, will be catastrophic, why we should avoid a shutdown. And these are all Democrats that he's going to talk about. OK, and all of a sudden right now, they're not saying nothing because Massa told them to shut up or you going to pay. That's the truth, because I wonder why any human being or anybody that love God would get out there and lie like that. Say, oh, you don't have no soul. You've been bought and sold out, because like I said, Massa is your donors. Okay. And when I say massive today, I'm talking about the Democratic donors. All right, let's go. Now, in the comments, before I start, in the comments, a lot of individuals really don't understand what's going on. But like I said, it's not a theory, it's a theorem. It's the Democrat shutdown, because why can't you just vote to keep the government open? If not, you sacrificing the American people, and you want the American people to think you love them and you'll be willing to do this. Really? All right, let's go.
Deep into a government shutdown. What a ridiculous waste of time.
I agree with him.
What a painful, ridiculous waste of time for the nation. I can't tell you how frustrating it is, because I've been here long enough now to be able to see what the negotiations look like. Let me tell you what it just looks like for the last few years even. Let's go back just through the Biden administration.
Check this out.
Every single end of September, as we approached the deadline for government funding, this body had a conversation. Do we want to remain open and continue negotiating, or do we want to shut down? And every single time during the Biden administration, this body said it's harmful to the American people and to federal workers to have a shutdown. Let's keep things open and continue to be able to negotiate.
Now, did you hear that? We're going to play that. We're going to play that part again, because every year they find themselves in the situation, and every time the Democrats vote to keep the government open. But for whatever reason, this time around, because I believe that the Democratic slave masters, meaning the Democratic donors, I believe that they understand that the party's over. So they just going to let it hit the wall and see what happened. And the individuals that they're forcing them to commit career suicide, because a lot of these individuals' career is going to be over. Really.
Biden administration.
Check it out.
This body said it's harmful to the American people and to federal workers to have a shutdown. Let's keep things open and continue to be able to negotiate.
Okay.
So the end of every September, which is the end of our fiscal year,
this
body voted to keep the government open and to continue to negotiate.
Why not now?
Well, what happens when the Trump administration comes? Well, during the Trump administration, Democrats have determined that they want to show they're fighting and raging, they're the resistance against President Trump, and so they've determined the best way to do that is just to be able to shut the government down.
That's crazy.
The same effect happens for federal workers. The same effect happens for the nation. We have the same opinion across the world, as the entire world looks at the United States of America, the greatest nation in the world, which is apparently not able to keep its government open.
That's crazy.
Because my Democratic colleagues have determined they want to show that they are the resistance.
And they are the opposition of the United States of America, the same way as the KKK and all of that. So this is why they do what they do. It's the spirit of the party.
Well, who gets to pay the penalty for the resistance? And what does that really look like?
The resistance.
We've had several votes that have happened here where we've had what's called a clean continuing resolution. This body knows it well because we voted on 13 of them in the last 4 years.
They voted on clean, clear resolutions 13 times over the last 4 years. What's the difference now? Ask yourself, what's the difference now?
A clean continuing resolution, and passed all of them. It was just a moment to say, can we keep the government open and continue to negotiate? The body determined, yes, let's keep negotiating, but let's not hurt federal workers and their families. Let's hurt members of the military and their families. Let's not hurt them. Let's keep the negotiating here.
Let's not hurt the working class is really what he's saying.
So we did that 13 times.
13 times.
In just the last 4 years. Until now.
Until now. Why now?
Democratic colleagues, the president knows full well, have brought forward a proposal. Their proposal is titled Continuing Appropriations and Extensions and Other Matters.
Okay, instead of voting for a clean CR, they want to add some things as if they are in power. Think about that. And that's us, and that's them pretty much pressing the line, because they know they're not in control and that they are not in power. So they're going to press the line and try to just add some things so they can go to their constituents and make it seem as though it's the Republicans that's shutting the government down. It's, when it's the Democrats, clearly. So listen up. I'm telling you, this is good.
No, ours is just titled Continuing Appropriations and Extensions.
So the Republicans just a clear resolution, and the Democrats want to, add things to the bill.
Theirs is titled Continuing Appropriations and Extensions and Other Matters.
And other matters.
You say, well, what are the other matters?
What are the other matters?
Well, ours just keeps the government open. That is Republicans.
So Republicans just want to keep the government open and then negotiate, but the Democrats want to change some other stuff. And he's going to break it down. This is good.
Just keeps the government open. It's status quo, where we are.
Makes sense.
Same level of spending, same functionality. That's where it focuses in on. My Democratic colleagues have brought their own proposal, which is $1.5 trillion in spending additions.
So they want to, y'all heard that. They want to add $1.4 trillion in spending to this bill right now instead of just keeping the government open, then negotiate later. And we are already in a deficit and they want to add to the deficit. That's crazy. So they're literally pressing the line, making it impossible so they can actually hurt America because massa, the Democratic donors want to destroy America, and they're using the Democratic Party slaves and elected pawns to do their dirty work.
And they include a couple new little nuggets in there.
Listen to these nuggets.
Other matters. They throw in like section 135, which has a new element.
So instead of voting for a clear resolution, the Democrats want to add this. Listen up.
On carbon management expenditures, dealing with fossil fuels. They have a new section on climate change.
Climate change.
That are built into their and other matters.
And other.
They have section 154, which is getting additional funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
They want to give PBS their money back that was taken out and wasn't added to the big beautiful bill.
They have section 2306, which allows a new extension of electric vehicles getting access to HOV lanes.
Come on now.
These are the demands that they put in to say, we will not reopen the government unless we get electric vehicles into HOV lanes.
Wow.
And additional money for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and carbon management expenditures. And oh, by the way, there was a $50 billion rural health care fund that Republicans passed in the One Big Beautiful Bill. They also want to get rid of that $50 billion rural health care fund, saying we need to wipe that out.
Wow.
Can I tell you, rural health...
And that's not love for American people. Rural Americans are Americans as well. And the Democrats want to take that away. That's not cool.
Rural hospitals really need the help. $50 billion would really be a huge help for them. We have called that the moonshot to be able to bring rural health care up to the standards that they need to be across the country. They just wiped that out and included that in their in other matters section.
The facts.
To say, yes, we want to open up the government, but we also want to close down more rural hospitals at the same time.
Facts.
Listen, we have disagreements on things.
Right.
It's not,
I need y'all to listen up on this part right here.
We're just through different parties. We come from different states and different areas. We have different perspectives. Welcome to America.
Yeah.
We have different opinions on things. That's what this body is supposed to be about. But when we have disagreements, we should be able to actually sit down like grown-ups.
Yeah.
And talk to each other.
Have a conversation.
And figure out how to be able to solve it. That's what actually should be done. This is not a radical concept. This is a pretty straightforward concept.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, my colleagues have agreed with me in the past on this.
Okay, this is the good part right here.
Just give you some examples.
So here are the examples of the 13 times that the Democrats voted to keep government open, and then all of a sudden, here's the change now. Okay, check this out.
My colleague, Senator Ben Ray Lujan, in September of last year,
shutting
down the government should be a non-starter. My colleague, Senator Mark Warner, said government shutdowns unleash chaos on federal workers, delay pay
These are
for
Democrats.
service members, and weaken our position on the global stage. My colleague, Bernie Sanders, said shutting down the government is a serious and dangerous action that we must do everything possible to prevent. Shutting down the government would impact tens of millions of our fellow Americans who would be unable to access government services.
Wow, that's Bernie Sanders.
My colleague and friend Jackie Rosen said a government shutdown would be devastating to Nevada families.
Democrats
It would increase housing costs, take away food assistance for seniors and children in need. My colleague Senator Mark Kelly, September of 2023, said a government shutdown would have serious impacts.
Wow.
Service members won't get their paychecks. Airports would have major delays. Nutrition assistance for children could be cut off. We can't let any of that happen.
Why now?
My colleague, Senator Elizabeth Warren, said the least we can do, the bare minimum we can do, would be to pass a continuing resolution to keep the doors open and the lights on.
Wow. What happened?
My colleague, Brian Schatz, said, I've seen the same thing over and over again. Shutdowns don't work.
They don't.
My colleague, Senator Gary Peters, said a government shutdown would be a disaster for our economy and for people in Michigan and across the country. My colleague Tim Kaine said, I'm a senator from Virginia. Some of the hardest effects of a shutdown would be seen in my state.
Wow.
My colleague Senator Dick Durbin has said, negotiating to avoid a government shutdown holds the livelihood of the American people and the proper functioning of this government hostage.
Wow. Hypocrites.
My colleague Amy Klobuchar said shutdowns are not good for the economy.
Wow.
And how about this one? Oh, I've got to find my favorite.
Come on, man.
My colleague, Chris Murphy, and my friend.
Chris Murphy. Last but not least.
Statement, there's a time and a place to debate health care. Just like there's a time and a place to debate energy policy, immigration, and education. But not when funding the federal government and all the lives that are impacted by it hang in the balance.
Wow. Did y'all hear that? He named off about 15 Democrats that over the last 2 years made statements and comments about shutdowns, and all of a sudden the change of heart. Why the change of heart? You know, that boggles my mind. And is this the end of the Democratic Party? Is the donors know that there's no lifeline? Do the donors know, that the Democratic Party can't rebrand themselves because the donors are going to be good no matter what? I looked at the Democrats' approval rating, and the Democrats' approval rating is at 30%. It's closer to 0 than it is to 100. I'm going to say that again. The Democratic Party's approval rating is 30% today. It's closer to 0 than 100, and it's at its lowest that it has ever been. Let that sink in. So the party is over. So as American citizens, it's time for us to separate ourselves and liberate ourselves and to be independents and to use the Constitution to press the federal government. And when I say use the Constitution, meaning the Constitution says we the people. Okay, so we the people. Their democracy does not mean government, government by the people, because there's a clause in that meaning our representatives represent the people. So we need to represent ourselves as nonpartisan independents and come up with strategies and ways that will work for every citizen in America, not illegal immigrants, not migrants, for citizens in America. Because if you are not an American citizen, you are not protected by the Constitution. And that's a fact. So now, we got to be adults and understand that the Democratic Party is the party of slavery. It's the party of the KKK, the party of Jim Crow, the party of hanging and public lynchings and all of that, the party of mass incarceration. And it's the party of the devil. It's a fact. It has no God, Because if the party had a God, then the party will promote nuclear families and it will promote male and female. It will not promote, males playing female sports, transgender surgeries and messing with the kids and, putting, homosexual stuff in children's movies and all of that stuff. That's Hollywood, which is democratic. Okay. 100%. So now we got to make a decision. Like, this is why, we got to understand that 13 million registered Democrats did not vote for the Democratic Party. They either stayed home or they wrote in a candidate. And I was one of the ones who wrote in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ as the president, because I could not choose between Lucifer and Satan, even when I had church leaders telling me, oh, it's the lesser of two evils, Brother Sean. Hey, Deacon, it's the lesser of two evils. It's no such thing as the lesser of the two evils. Evil is evil. I cannot and we cannot any longer make a decision between Lucifer and Satan, because it's a two-headed serpent. And we can't even listen to the women anymore because they're compromised. Because if you look in the first book of the Bible, Eve was deceived, and then Eve deceived Adam. So now that we are Adams and we understand, we can't blame Eve. We got to step our game up and rebuke Eve and the devil, and then she'll repent, and then we'll move on. But right now the devil is, he's running amok, and he's running all through that party, because these individuals could care less about humanity. They could care less about crime. You got mayors fighting the federal government from bringing in federal troops to stop the crime. And then you got individuals who live on the other side of town who happen to be white Democrats who don't want to, work together or live among, blacks and browns. Keep them over there. They out there protesting, the federal government stopping murder, the federal government stopping, gangs, the federal government stopping, all of this organized crime and all of these things that's going on. So we as a people, this is our reality check. This is our reality check. And if you looking for a coon, Uncle Tom, or sellout, every elected official, especially a black one, is that. And I have a question for you. What's worse than a Democrat? A black one. And that's fact. Okay. And then somebody put in a comment, fascist. Okay. Do you know the opposition of a fascist is a communist? See, this is why I'm telling you the joke's on you. These are communists. Socialism leads to Marxism, and Marxism is communism. They are about to elect a Marxist into the city of New York, one of our biggest, beautifulest, most populated cities. It is what it is. So when they cry fascist, think about it. They're playing you like a banjo. So when you say fascist, you basically claiming communism, just like, gangbanging, Crips and Bloods. If you sit back and say, oh, he a blood, then you must be a Crip. Okay. Especially if you say he a slob. And then if somebody say, oh, they the Crips. Oh, you must be a blood. You must be the opposition of the Crips. So when you say fascist, you're claiming communism, because a communist won't tell you who they are, because they put it in socialism and all of this Marxism and all of these things, because they want to rule. And then they have, leaders that we don't see, that dark, dirty money. Okay. So you guys got to understand the opposition of a fascist is a communist. So when you sit back and you listening to, the Morning Job and he show, oh, they're fascists. Oh, because you're playing the communist card. Because if you claiming that they're a fascist, then you don't like fascists. So then that means you are a communist. It's time to tell the truth and shame the devil. The truth shall make us free. The truth shall set us free. And we shall be truth bearers and tell the truth. Because before, my people like me, they didn't want us to read. It was illegal for us to read, because they knew if we learned the knowledge and the understanding that this scheme and this scam can't last forever. Even Willie Lynch said it himself. We could do this for hundreds, if not thousands of years, unless a phenomenon happened. And that phenomenon is the internet. This is a phenomenon that you're watching right now, because they want you to just watch the mainstream legacy media, and they can just control your vibration. Stay tuned for your next programming, and they can program you. But that's not the case. The mainstream media get its information from the internet. This is why they shadow ban some of our videos, so they could be the first to break the stories. So if you are somebody that's saying fascist, then that means you're claiming communism. So stop with the madness and stop with that Democratic rhetoric, because they know what they're doing. The mayor of Los Angeles, they call her Commie Karen. Look at their history. These were bad people. And now all of a sudden they get older and we act like they just, by osmosis, and they just all of a sudden became who they are. No. They were some bad actors. And some individuals came and said, okay, we're going to give you some money so you can infiltrate the government. And we could run this scam right in their faces. We can have black, ignorant, dumb black people claiming and calling white people fascists, not even knowing what it is. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So it's time to grow up. It's time for us to, have these conversations. It's time for us to speak on the truth. And the truth is the truth. This shutdown is Democratic shutdown. They call it the Schumer shutdown. And we sitting back watching these two rivaling tribes. We are watching these two rivaling tribes. So this is not our business. This is not our fight. They got us fighting for them. The only way that they continue to do what they're doing is because they got us fighting for them and protecting them, and got dumb, ignorant Negroes saying white people are fascists. Come on now. Think about that. Calling them Nazis and all of that. So my thing is, let them work that thing out. Okay, so when I see white people calling Trump them Nazis, and I'm sitting back saying, what are you? And what's the issue with you? Aren't you white? Isn't that your brother? What's the smoke? So we can't find out what's really going on if we out there, in the pig pen with the both of them. Because if you look at a pig pen, you see us slopping around. We're no different than them. So it's time for us to step up our character and rise the vibration and level up. And be the intellectuals and be the smart people and be the individuals that's doing the right thing and that's fighting for what's right in this country and fighting for that Constitution. It is what it is. So just to sit back and watch these guys go back and forth, and we all are humans. And I'm in these comments, Chris, we all are human. One race to human race, but we can only be that if the Democratic Party dies. As long as the Democratic Party is alive, they're going to keep on pressing. They had the black man. They lost us. The woman is gone. Sayonara, she's gone. But the black man, we not standing for this. And now, since the black man is out and we didn't support the party, we either voted for Trump, voted down ballot, or wrote in a candidate. They lost the election, the popular vote, and the electoral college. And now they're investing in the migrant, investing in illegal immigrants. Think about it. And then you have Brandon Johnson trying to protect these illegal immigrants in the cities that they sent them to. So let's have this conversation. Let's really have a conversation. And like I said, I know the truth hurts sometimes. I know it might be offensive, but if you stick around, hit the subscription, hit the notification, you will learn that we have more in common than you think. Okay? Because somebody put in a comment the Epstein's list. They're not going to do that. Okay? Because it's the scribes and the Pharisees. Ain't no list coming. So that's a pipe dream. Ain't no list coming. Okay. And if the list does come, it's going to have to come by the victims, because the victims know who violated them. The victims know they didn't have a problem accusing Puffy. So why don't these victims go out and accuse the individuals that violated them, because they know who they are. They know who they are. All right. And I'm going to show you that it is what it is. Okay. And these rivaling tribes and the truth hurt. There was another exchange by Ted Cruz and Padilla. He out here in California, and watch how he lies, and watch how Ted Cruz destroy him. And when I say destroy him, I mean destroy him. Watch this.
The rhetoric I keep hearing about immigrants and crime as if every single immigrant is a criminal.
We know every immigrant is not a criminal, but to migrate to the United States illegally, that's a crime, bro.
70% of people ICE is arresting and booking have no criminal
Haven't been caught.
convictions against. This is ICE statistics. Of the 30% of them.
And look at this Democratic slave out here promoting everything but his country. And this, like I said, because he's Latino, you see how it's cool for him to fight for his people, but it's weird when I see black people out there trying to fight for the migrants.
Have some sort of conviction. A significant portion of those offenses come from traffic violations, or yes, immigration offenses. Immigration offenses, not dangerous, violent crime. For those who want to talk about the investment by the Trump administration in immigration,
stick around for this.
Enforcement and crime, the president's 2026 budget requested cuts salaries and expenses for the FBI by $545 million.
Yeah.
The DEA by $212 million. The ATF by $468 million.
Okay.
And if that wasn't enough, the Department of Justice Organized Crime and Drug Enforcement Task Force program, the very one
watch what Ted Cruz do to this guy,
would lose its entire funding and would be shut down completely. So, look, I share this.
And he shared that, and it was totally out of context because this wasn't even a topic of discussion. And when Ted Cruz speaks, he humiliates this guy, and he really lets you know what time it is. And Ted Cruz is a Latino, okay, Republican.
Because this hearing, I think, is representative of how difficult it is to have a substantive, constructive conversation about immigration in Congress today.
Watch
His
this.
first 71 days, Joe Biden averaged 2,600 releases per day.
600 releases per day, Joe Biden.
Let's compare that to the same 71-day period.
Watch this.
In 2025 under President
Watch
Trump.
Ted Cruz.
Joe Biden, 184,241. Donald Trump, 9.
Damn.
Not 9,000, not 900, 9. That is a 99.995% reduction.
In 8 months.
At the State of the Union address, Democrats did something else unprecedented. They decided they wouldn't stand for the president. They wouldn't applaud for the president. The only thing they would do is emanate hate and rage for the president of the United States.
And that was so disrespectful.
So Alexis Nungaray was at the State of the Union address. I've gotten to know a lot.
So this is a conversation about immigrants, and it's going to get heated. So just listen to the facts and just let it sink in, because House divided cannot stand. It can't be Republicans, Democrats. We got to be on the same sheet of music to make this thing work. So this is why the Democratic Party is done. They invested in the migrants. The Republic is not standing for it. So now the American people got to rise up as one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, and hold that Constitution to every word and make this country work for everybody. Because if we don't do this, it's going to be war, and it's going to end. If we do this, it will be one race, and that's the human race. And that's what we're really trying to do.
Alexis Well, the mother of Jocelyn Nungaray, a beautiful 12-year-old girl.
She was killed by a migrant.
Raped and murdered in my hometown of Houston. The Democrats sat there and wouldn't applaud.
That's sad. That's the devil.
For the mother whose baby girl was taken from her.
And Master told him, you sit your ass down. That's what Master said.
President Trump at the State of the Union address said last year Joe Biden stood before Congress and said he could not secure the border.
Y'all remember that? Joe Biden said, I can't secure the border. I need Congress to do it. But watch this.
Unless Congress passed new legislation.
Watch this.
And as President Trump pointed out, it turned out we didn't need new legislation.
Nope.
We just needed a new president.
Facts.
You look at gotaways.
Gotaways.
Under Joe Biden, over 3 million gotaways.
3 million gotaways, meaning the illegal immigrants that came into America undocumented, had court cases, and 3 million did not even show up for court. We don't even know where they are, what they're doing, what they're associated with. And these are the individuals that ICE is going after.
Who are gotaways? They're the most concerning of all of the 12 million that came into this country, because gotaways are the illegal immigrants we know were here. We see signs of them. We see tracks.
And you just saw Padilla talk about, 90% of the immigrants does not commit crimes. But Cruz is coming with the facts, hard facts.
But they didn't turn themselves in. Gotaways are much, much more likely to be murderers, much more likely to be rapists, much more likely to be child molesters, much more likely to be gang members, much more likely to be terrorists.
More than likely.
Under the Biden administration, CBP was instructed at the southern border, be on guard for Hamas and Hezbollah and Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorists coming across the border. Why? Because they've declared jihad. And because the Biden open border policies extended a red carpet for anyone that sought
a red carpet
to do harm. Now, if you look at what the Trump administration has done, it didn't just slow the bleeding. It turned it around. Daily border encounters down 93%. Encounters with gotaways down 95%. Illegal alien crossings down over 99%.
The president is doing what he said he was going to do. He shut that border down, and he did. And that's facts.
These are historic, the biggest improvement in border security in the history of the United States of America.
Wow. I believe it.
And yet, not a single Democrat is here celebrating that.
Nope.
Not a single Democrat is saying, thank you that our families are safer. They don't want our families safer.
And this is an elected official going on record and explaining how the Democrats don't want America safer. See, they live behind, their wrought iron fences and their mansions and gates and private detail security officers, but they don't want crime to end because the devil paid them for the crime. Okay, it's the party of the devil. Just understand that.
The Democrats have decided instead to fly down to El Salvador and have margaritas with MS-13 gang members.
And that's what they did to go get, an immigrant who was deported, who was actually convicted of a crime. The Democrats went to get him back. Now, one time, how did I ever see a protest or anything to stop a black man from going to jail, but they'll leave the country to go get an illegal immigrant? This is crazy.
I genuinely don't understand that. Find me a community in America. Find me a mom in America who says, you know what we need? More gang members.
That part.
Lincoln Riley, a beautiful 22-year-old girl in Georgia, murdered by an illegal immigrant the Democrats released. Democrats
don't say nothing about that. But when, a white man do something, hey, you see the veins in his neck, it's the KKK, knock it off. Let's keep it 100. We got a problem and we got to fix it. They say the system is broken and it needs to be fixed.
Jocelyn Nungary, as I mentioned, a beautiful
he calling out names
girl in my hometown of Houston, murdered by 2 illegal immigrants the Democrats released. They had them in custody.
Wow.
Her murderers were in custody. The Democrats released them. Her murder was in custody. The Democrats released them. Rachel Marin was a mother of 5. Raped and murdered by an illegal immigrant the Democrats had in custody.
Wow.
And they released them.
How can you even support a party like that? Let's just be honest. How can you even support a party like that? That's why I'm offering you independence. I'm not saying go flip and be a Republican, but being associated with the Democratic Party, you're guilty by association. I mean, it is what it is.
Over and over and over again.
Wow. That was crazy. That was crazy. So it is what it is. So I'm about to get in these comments. I want to see if we got any individuals out here that's really, want to, be a difference maker. That really want to be a difference maker. That want to be a part of history. that, really want to come together as one. And it is what it is, man. All right, so let me get in these comments. What y'all got going on? Now, let me see here. How many new jobs we get? Oh, right now the government is shut down. Okay, the government is shut down. Okay, what does most of the political violence? Go ahead, LOL. Let me see here. So the base pay so I guess, you guys need some help. And the days and time that we're living in right now, you could go get your money. You could go get your money. So if you're looking for a job, you're looking for all of that, figure it out. But in a sense of America, we have to change course. There's no way, we can continue on this path. So I'm looking for a comment of an individual who does not understand how important working together works. Because clearly massa, and like I said earlier, and I have to mention at the beginning of this podcast, that massa is the funders of the Democratic Party. And this is why our Democratic elected officials choose to lie, choose to do the things that they're doing because they sold their soul. It is what it is. Now, unity, they're afraid of it, but we can't be afraid of it, okay? Because coming together as one is a good thing. But we have to, be on the same sheet of music. We can't be, fighting and debating and arguing. So one thing we got to start agreeing on, male and female, XX and XY. Okay, we got to start, do we want to end crime? Meaning, we're going to have to, push the line and push the agenda to end mass incarceration, because we're 40%, 6% of the world's population, but 40% of the world's prisoners. And I saw a terrible study. It's an interesting study, but it says 6 out of 10 black men in the United States will see themselves behind bars. And you can see that in a documentary called The 13 by Eva DuVernay. And it was actually a wonderful documentary, and I believe it's on Netflix. So the Democratic Party is over. The black church, you guys are next, bruh. Because you leaders and you preachers, working with the scribes, and allowing these people to send you to hell, because you can't save two masters. You can't serve two masters, excuse me. So we are stronger together. We are stronger together. And if I'm in the comments right now. So if you got a question, I'm pretty good at Q&A. Go ahead and throw it in there. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I see that you guys are conversating amongst one another, and that's a beautiful thing. But like I said, the Democrats, they playing a blame game. They're the resistance party, and a part of their resistance is to accuse, and that's one of the devil's aliases. He's the accuser. He is what it is. And somebody said, look at Trump's approval rating. Trump approval rating is 53% right now. And it was 54% this time last year. And I looked it up before I actually started this because I had a strange feeling. So meaning, he's right where he was. And he's doing what he said he was going to do. Did he not say he was going to secure this border? This border is secure. Did he not say he was going to infuse himself in these lifetime wars? And according, right now, 7 wars have ended because of his administration. He brought them in. They got peace deals going on, and he just got to deal with the Israel and Hamas, and he got to deal with Ukraine and Russia. But for the most part, America is what it is. And like I said, if you don't think this is the greatest nation in the world, then leave, okay? Because I got so many individuals where, watch what happened. They're going to shoot a bomb over here, and where are we going to go? Okay? So this is why the black man has to step up and rise, because, we have a lot of power, and we have a lot of influence. And we're going to utilize that power and that influence because we have to, because we sat back, for 400 years. And in the last 60 years, we sat back and, listened to these politicians sacrifice the black woman, and she's compromised. And like I said, the devil can have her, no disrespect. But we're not going to be arguing, debating, because right is right and wrong is wrong. This is about God versus God or the devil, right versus wrong, light or darkness. It is what it is. It is what it is. So let me see here. Still waiting on the 7 wars. You can actually look it up, but I know the war between Somalia, the war with Iran, the Sudan war. I did a list. I have to go get somebody put it in. Egypt versus Ethiopia, Rwanda versus Congo, India versus Pakistan, Israel versus Iran, Thailand versus Colombia, and Armenia versus Azerbaijan. Thank you for that. Like I said, and if I could have gave you a prize, was that Brady? If I could have gave you a prize, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Just ran them off. See, we got smart individuals here. And Israel is war with Hamas, not Iran. So Iran that's over. So Israel is going against Hamas. And somebody threw in Thailand versus Colombia. See, you guys are pretty smart. I love you all. I appreciate y'all for helping, me out, with the facts, because we have a desire to grow. And I appreciate all the likes. I appreciate the subscriptions. I appreciate you individuals. It don't cost you anything. Hit that like. It helps the algorithm. And then I'm going to chop this thing up and, do what I do when it comes to, sending out the clips and all of that. But, man, I appreciate y'all. And just understand, the Democratic Party is over. This is the Schumer shutdown. The party of slavery is being exposed. They don't love you American workers because the Democrats is pretty much are trying to get you fired because they don't even want to vote on a clean resolution to keep the government open. They were on extras, and they're going to play that blame game. And remember, the devil is the accuser. There are some liars, pawns, slaves. Massa is in control. And Massa, when I say Massa, I mean the donors of the Democratic Party. And Hakeem, light-skinned, green-eyed Jeffries is nothing but a slave. And he's doing what he's told to do. Get out there, boy. Get on those morning shows, boy. Go on MSNBC, boy. Get your light-skinned, green-eyed self out there and go live for Massa. And that's what he's doing. They picked the right one with that one. Okay. And the black church. Woo, you black church. Y'all in trouble, man. Y'all in trouble. Man, y'all going straight to hell unless you repent, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. You guys are in bed with the devil. You promote to your parishioners to be a part of this world when God says himself to separate yourselves. So you black pastors, you black preachers, y'all in trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and go on record, and I'm going to break it down because of time. I could do it right now, but I'm going to do it because of time. But I'm going to break it down in terms as to why the black church and these so-called men of God are going to hell unless they repent, because they're working in cahoots, with the devil, clearly, because their soul have been sold. And there's, the highest bidder. Because if you are free and independent, you think for yourself. If you're free and independent, you have your own views and, you bounce them around, and then but when you are a sellout, you don't have no rules. You do what you told. And like I said, you black preachers and you pastors, man, y'all in trouble. And when I say y'all in trouble, I'm going to give you a little taste of what y'all going to get. Because, I did a little deep dive, man, the other day. And I asked about the scribes and the Pharisees. And it basically broke down how the Pharisees is the conservatives. Okay. And it's documented in Luke. It's documented in the Bible that Jesus, he went to dinner with the Pharisees. But there's no documentation that Jesus ever had dinner or hung out with scribes other than flipping the table. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and just break it down, because the Pharisees, Republican Party, emphasis on law and order, focus on moral standards, tradition, religious values, seen as the defenders of truth and purity, but sometimes accused of hypocrisy or lacking compassion. Okay, that's the Republican Pharisee. The Democratic scribe focus on systematic justice, legal interpretation, and policy reform, emphasis on education, rights, and compassion, sometimes accused of missing moral absolutes. And this is why I can say that the Democratic Party has no morals, have no values, because it has no God. It is what it is. And if you in the state of California, vote no on Prop 50, okay? And the next video that I do, it will be about, the church and the proposition, because God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. And with that being said, man, I love y'all. Hit that like, hit that notification, hit that subscription. This your man, Bushan Glover, signing out of Better Black America TV on YouTube. Peace out.